So before we start, quick check.
Yeah, I can hear you,
Yes.
Raiko. Loud and clear,
Oh,
loud and clear.
very good. I think then we can start. Hello and welcome to our Sony Pro session. Today we want to speak about lenses. Before we start, I want to remind you that this will be a kind of interactive session. This means you can ask questions in the chat. We will pick up some questions and we'll answer these. The other questions will be answered afterwards in the social media portals from Sony. Yeah, today we are a team of 3 persons. Dennis Schmelz, filmmaker and photographer, Ben Pilling, technical marketing manager and trainer, and me, product specialist for Entry Professional Video Solutions. There are so many nice lenses in the market, and we want to give you a quick impression why Sony lenses could be interesting or maybe essential for your camera setup. At first, Ben will start and will give us a lot of technical details and describing the technologies in the lenses. And in the second part, I will share with you a lot of feedback which I have received from end customers and dealers about third-party solutions. And the most important part is with Dennis. He will show us a lot of content and behind-the-scenes material. Okay, then let's start with Ben.
Okay, guys. Well, just to remind you, as Raiko said, this is an interactive session. So if you do have any questions, please just do put them there in the chat. We might not be able to answer them all, so I do apologize for that, but we'll try and do our best. Now, as Raiko said, we're here to talk about the E-mount lenses that we have. And we've got an amazing lineup of lenses covering a vast variety of different price points, apertures, different purposes within our range. It's all based around what we have here at Sony is what we refer to as a one mount system. And what we see here is we have a very large number of E-mount lenses, but there's great adaptability to be able to use those on many different type of models. So those could be used from anything in terms of our alpha range down from an alpha 6000, but that same lens can be put straight onto a Venice cinema camera that we've seen being used on major film productions. And that great flexibility means that it gives us the capability to be able to offer a lens lineup and a lens mount that's adaptable between full frame and Super 35 or APS-C, if you will, that is used for still images, but is also really designed for movie shooters as well. And we're going to look obviously at that as we go through things here today. Of course, we aim our lens lineup and our camera technology at professionals, but we're able to also account for beginners, people really just starting out with the Sony system from the base point there as well. And as such, with that, of course, you get people who are real serious shooters, but also really suitable for casual shooting as well. And it means that our lineup, being able to be adaptable across many different types of cameras, it gives you great flexibility to be able to shoot exactly what you want and have a multitude of tools at your disposal to be able to do that. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go through every single lens that we have in our lineup because we almost have too many. In fact, we're currently looking at about 64 E-mount lenses in the lineup at the moment. So that's consisting of 44 full frame lenses and 20 lenses which are designed for Super 35 or APS-C usage. Now, just to give you an idea of some of the lineup there, I'll just give you an overview of those full frame lenses as a first point. So to begin off with there, like I say, I'm not going to go through all these one by one because, like I say, unfortunately, we don't have the time as much as we'd like to, like I say, go through details of exactly what each lens can do. But what you can see here on the screen is on the top half of the slide, those are the full frame lenses, which are zoom lenses. And you can see everything there in terms of focal length. We're going all the way down to an ultra wide 12mm, the 12 to 24. We actually have two 12 to 24s, so 2.8 and an f4. And our zoom lenses go all the way up to the likes of a 200 to 600. And you can see all the different lenses in between. There's a vast variety within there, again, for many different purposes. What you see on the lower half of the screen are our full frame prime lenses, fixed focal length lenses. And again, we give a great amount of choice to you out there. Again, that's going right the way from the very recently announced 14mm f1.8 all the way up to the 600mm f4. So you can really see there's a great flexibility in the system to be able to have your choice of whatever lens will suit your exact needs for your shooting situation and the job that you have on. Now, one key part of the lenses which we're going to look at today is the autofocus. What a lot of people might not be familiar with is using autofocus during movie recording, during filmmaking. It's something which is maybe natural to a lot of us. And one of the key questions around that is about, is autofocus usable? Now, if you've not used it before, if you've not used our great cameras and lens lineup within there, like I say, it's something that for you would be probably quite a key question. And hopefully you're going to see some more from Dennis talking about this later on. But what you can see is just an example here. This is one of our lovely recent lenses, a 50mm f1.2, so real shallow depth of field. And you see that we get very shallow depth of focus with really precise autofocus. We have our technologies like eye autofocus. We have technologies like our tracking, our real-time tracking, and even in low light situations, you can get really good autofocus tracking coming out of these stunning lenses. And that's, again, something that's designed to work across the lineup. So you want very smooth autofocus operation. You don't want that, of course, to be jerking back and forth, to be moving at different speeds. And we design our lenses across, whether it's 14mm, 600mm, something in between, to be able to have a very smooth autofocus operation, but also be able to update quickly, depending on, like I said, what your movement might be or what your subject's movement might be. The example we got here is a 40mm 1.8, which traditionally you might not think of a shallow depth of field, but with its close focusing distance and that bright aperture, you're even able to get that with this lens. The example that we see here is just taken with the FX3, but of course, that is also an autofocus performance that we see replicated across multiple different models. And you'll see some more real life usage coming from Dennis later in our webinar. So the question is, why does it work so well? You know, of course, I'm from Sony, I'm going to say it works well, but it works well for good reasons. And what those are is the technology in the body and the lens working together to be optimized for movie. So you see, again, across a different array of our cameras, whether you've got the likes of the FX9, the FX6, the FX3, looking at our Alpha 1 or Alpha 7S Mark III, they have a real good amount of autofocus technology built in there. They have hybrid autofocus, so that's a combination of phase detection autofocus and contrast detection autofocus. They have features like eye autofocus built in there, so they can really precisely track a subject. And there's also detailed autofocus settings in terms of maybe the speed that you want the focus to update, or if you want the focus to keep locked on a certain subject, or if you wanted it to actually switch onto a different subject. That combines with the technologies we build into our lenses. So we have, very crucially, Sony unique linear focus motors. And this is really, really crucial to autofocus for filmmaking, being able to update smoothly, quickly, accurately, and quietly. And we even built other technologies in there, such as wobbling technology, where the lens is moving by micro amounts, which don't actually change the focus on the screen at all, but it's continuously checking your subject. So if there is any movement further or away, it can smoothly update with it. And what you see from Sony is we've got a real breadth of experience in this area. We've, of course, been making these types of lenses for many, many years, having entered the mirrorless market back in 2010. And of course, we've been making full frame mirrorless lenses in the market since 2013 with the launch of our mirrorless system, the world's first full frame mirrorless Alpha 7 and Alpha 7R. But what's a key difference here is also the focus motor built into the lenses as well. So just to give you a bit of a history lesson and a bit of a technology lesson about what's going on there within the cameras, you can look back across different autofocus technology that you've had inside lenses. So what you can see furthest to the left here is the older type of technology. Back in the 1980s, we had the coupler system where the autofocus was driven from the body of the camera to drive that into the lens. We then saw things like DC motors being introduced into lenses, and then supersonic wave or ultrasonic wave motors being incorporated into lenses, and more recently, stepping motors. The issue with these lenses, of course, these were all designed for SLRs and digital SLRs, and as such, they were designed for still photography, essentially, the vast majority of the time. And with this, it means that they were designed to work quickly for photo, but they weren't necessarily designed to work in an optimized way for filmmaking. And a key part is that all these technologies, they actually have to change a rotational motion, so it might be moving of gears within there, into a linear motion to move that focusing element back and forth within the lens. That mechanical drive may cause mechanical errors, it may cause friction. What you see incorporated into the vast majority of our lenses is linear motors. So we have normal linear motors incorporated into our lenses, but we also have direct drive SSM, which is a type of linear motor, and also XD linear motor as well. Those last two, the direct drive SSM and the XD, or extreme dynamic is what that is short for. They're so unique, and again, it's an area that we've really been concentrating on in the last few years to make sure that our lenses really are giving you the best performance, and that can be used for either still or for movie. With these types of technologies we have from the linear motors, it's all linear direction. There's no gears, there's no mechanical parts. They're contactless, they're frictionless, and they're silent, and that really optimizes it for filmmaking. Now, just to give you an idea of what's happening within the lens there, I'll just show you part of a clip from our 400mm lens, which was the first to incorporate an XD linear motor. Now, an XD linear motor is like a normal linear motor, but really supercharged. It delivers a lot higher thrust than you'd get from a normal linear motor. And as such, that's why it was incorporated into such a high-end lens as a 400mm 2.8. It can move very quickly, very smoothly, but also with great precision. Now, in the video here, you see exactly what's happening inside the lens. And of course, that's going to benefit still photography, as you can see on the video here, but also it's able to move smoothly, precisely, and at varying speeds for filmmaking as well. Now, just to give you an idea of the difference that can make as well, I just do want to show you a comparison of an XD linear motor versus a competitor lens, which is using the supersonic wave motor, or ring drive ultrasonic wave motor as it's sometimes referred to. And what I want you to do is to listen in to these videos. It's same type of recording of subjects. We set the cameras just to update the focus as quickly as possible. So please don't worry if the update of focus doesn't, if the update of focus is too quick for your liking. This is just designed to change focus quickly, and you can change the settings within the camera in terms of the speed of focus, which we'll look at in a second. So just listen into the movie I'm going to play for you guys. And this first one is a Sony lens with XD linear motors that we've got coming up here. Just listen into this. I'll just replay that again because it's a very short clip. So I'm just going to replay it a couple of times here. Now that's a Sony lens using XD linear motors. Now I'm going to play you a clip, same thing, again, just trying to update the focus as quickly as possible with a competitor lens using supersonic wave motors. And just listen in to here onto this lens as well. And I'll just replay that again for you a couple of times, and just to listen in to the sound you hear there, but also just notice as well how the focus slightly hunts in between there. This is using exactly the same camera with exactly the same type of focal length and aperture on there as well. I'll play that a couple more times. You could listen in and hear on there the difference of those motors which are not designed for autofocus traditionally in filmmaking and the XD linear motors. You also see that the XD linear motors actually updated smoother and more accurately as well on there. Now, in addition to that, like I say, that might have not been so pleasing visually because it updated focus very quickly. But within our cameras, there are a range of settings that you can help control the focus of the lens. So you can actually set how quickly on the scale you want the transition of focus to take place. And you can also set within the cameras if you want it to stay locked onto a certain subject, or if you want it actually to make sure that it focuses on a different subject as that comes into the shot as well. So I'll just play a little movie here which shows you, like I say, within the camera, we have the transition speed where we can have it fast, so it really is updating that focus quickly if that's what you need for your situation. But you also have that slow, more cinematic kind of change of transition of focus within there as well. You also have the capability to change the subject shift sensitivity. So is it going to stay locked onto your subject, or is it going to switch the focus onto another subject in the frame as well? So you can control those things within the camera to make sure that it's set up exactly for your scene and situation. In terms of our lenses, a couple of other points to mention. We have some very useful features on there. So you'll find a lot of our prime lenses actually have an iris ring on there. You can set it to the A position, which means that from the camera you can control the iris, but you can manually set the iris direct on the lens itself on a lot of our prime lenses. A lot of our still shooters like to hear a click every third of a stop so they can know exactly what aperture they're on or how much they're changing without moving away from the viewfinder. But of course, a lot of our filmmakers don't like the sound of anything coming up. So we do have on a lot of these prime lenses as well that have that aperture ring, they all have a click on and off switch, so that if you are a filmmaker and you don't want any sound coming from that iris ring, then you can set the click to off on there as well. There's also a button on the side, a focus hold button, which on lots of cameras can be customized to give you really quick access into features and functions. And lots of our lenses also incorporate something we call linear response manual focus. Now, with a lot of mirrorless lenses, they don't physically move the focus element with the focus ring. You can not mechanically connect it. But what you find with a lot of Sony's lenses is that this linear response manual focus basically enables you to change the focus very accurately, just like a mechanical lens. It changes that focus linearly. So if you move it a certain amount and then move it back, it's always going to be a repeatable focus in terms of the amount you've moved and then the amount that the focus moves, no matter how quickly you move that. And it gives a really natural impression for manual focusing on there as well, if you did want to manually focus the lens. Now, just to give you an idea, because I can't talk through all of our lenses, I just want to give you a snapshot of some of the lenses within our lineup. We have lenses furthest to the left here, you can see on the screen, which are really, really optimized for movie recording. The likes of the 28-135 f4 lens. This is a lens which really tries to reduce any form of focus breathing, axial shift while zooming, and also maintaining focus while zooming. You have a servo zoom option on there as well. You have 3 independent rings for your focus, for your zoom, for your iris. And all those features pretty much are repeated also on the lens below that, the 18-110. The difference being that the 18-110 is designed for Super 35 cameras. You can also always tell that from the Sony lenses by the name of the lens. If it starts with FE, it's for full frame E mount, or if it starts with E, it's designed for the Super 35 or APS-C imaging sensor. Also at the bottom there, you can see we've got another very optimized lens for movie recording, which is the 16-35 Cine Lens T3.1. Again, featuring a lot of the things we just mentioned on the above, but again, really geared towards the filmmaker needing that wide angle option on there. In terms of our standard lenses, we've got of course, options of f2.8 zoom. So if you're working in a situation where you need that adaptability of the zoom, but you want to keep that iris big, we have the likes of a 12 to 24 2.8 at the wide end, of course, a standard 24 to 70 2.8, and a 70 to 200 2.8. In terms of prime lenses, very popular with a lot of people are the likes of the 14mm 1.8 I mentioned recently, 20mm 1.8 G lens, the 24 1.4, 35 1.4, 50mm 1.2, or the absolutely stunning 135mm 1.8. You can see on those prime lenses there, they have those iris rings I was talking about. They all have declick switches. They have options for changing autofocus and manual focus directly on the lens there as well. So they're really adaptable. And of course, we do have a whole host of other zoom lenses, prime lenses within the range as well. But just to give you an idea of some really useful focal lengths that we have within our range in terms of primes, in terms of zooms. And again, a lot of these lenses, particularly some of those recently announced primes you can see on the right there, are actually relatively compact and lightweight in size, which is even more impressive. So overall, like I say, unfortunately, I can't talk all day. They won't let me. And also, I'm aware that you want to also hear from Dennis, who's joined us today, to actually speak about his real life usage of our lenses within his work. But hopefully you get an overall picture of how useful our lens lineup is, being able to be used on full frame and Super 35 or APS-C, being used by professionals and also amateurs, and not just designed for still shoots, but really optimized for filmmaking in terms of the technologies that are built into the lenses as well into the bodies. So at this point, I probably best ask Raiko, are there any questions in the chat?
Yes, there are some interesting questions which we have received, more to the connectivity to other lenses, but very, very interesting. Let me pick up some questions. One question was already answered from Ben. Let me repeat it. Which series lenses are more suitable for using follow focus? And then we can go back to the function which Ben has mentioned. This is the linear response MF. And with these lenses, you can mimic the manual operation of a real professional or cine lens. And so it's very close or very similar to this operation. This is one question. The second question, can I use vintage lenses on FX6? What is the best way to focus smoothly? Yes, you can, but you have to take care about 2 points. At first, you have to use an adapter to use the lens. And if you're using adapter, very often you have no electronic connection, because everything, all the settings have to be done manually on the lens itself. And the second point is, if you're speaking about vintage lenses and FX6, please take care about the resolution, and not only the resolution, also the is it full frame or is it Super 35? Because many lenses from the past are Super 35 lenses, and the FX6 has a full frame sensor. And if you want to use a Super 35 lens, you can do it in full HD mode, but not in 4K mode. So this is, this will be the 2 questions. All other questions we will answer in the social media platforms, as we said it already. Okay, maybe you will get some additional information about all the third-party lenses and adapters in my part. Let me start with my part. Maybe you will get some additional information. In the last time we have launched so many cameras, particularly with the FX series, with the FX9 or the FX9, FX6, and FX3 was a big change in the way of filmmaking, because these models were supplied with high performance precise and adjustable autofocus system. It is called from Sony, the Sony Fast Hybrid AF. And only in combination with the correct lens, you can benefit from the speed, from the compact size, and also what Ben has shown from the silent operation of the autofocus. After the launch of the FX9, I have received many questions from professional filmmakers about choosing the correct lens. Because until this time, they have used manual focus mainly, and a little bit of autofocus. So we have received questions and sometimes also complaints about the expected autofocus because they have not used native Sony lenses. Of course, it will be good to use a third-party lens or an adapter solution. If you are coming from another manufacturer and switching to Sony and use your existing lens lineup, or maybe, as we had it in the chat, some vintage lenses or some specific cinema lenses. But if you want to benefit from the high performance autofocus, you have to use Sony lenses. The hybrid filmmakers who are using their cameras for stills and for movie making, they are more familiar with the Sony AF technology and also with the lenses. So, yeah, at the end, we have to say, if you want to benefit from the whole autofocus performance, you have to use a Sony lens. And additionally, the way of filmmaking has completely changed from big production teams to small teams to one-person shooters to more mobile application like gimbals, cranes, cable cams. And then it would be good to have a really nice compact system with a lot of auto functions. But now I have talked enough. Let's check the chat again. If we have some questions, Ben, can you check?
Yeah, so we have a couple of questions. Somebody's asking if there's any plans for an 85mm f1.2, and you'd probably be able to guess from me that my answer as an official Sony representative is that I can't tell you. But it's a very good question. It's really good feedback because at the moment we're at 64 lenses. We're not going to stop at 64 lenses. So if 85mm f1.2 is highly demanded in the market, that's definitely feedback we've got to listen to. As I mentioned there, we have our recently launched 50mm f1.2. There were some murmurings on the internet and different places about thinking that Sony couldn't offer bright lenses on our cameras, but as you can see, the 50mm 1.2 that we launched disproves some of those rumors and myths around there. And also that's a lens which has got excellent results in terms of its resolution and capability, and also in a really small size. So I have to say the typical thank you for your feedback, but genuinely thank you, because like I say, we're not stopping at 64 lenses. We're going to obviously continue. And we need to understand the real demand from the customer out there. So that's really useful. Thank you very much. Somebody was also saying about animal eye autofocus. They're using an R Mark IV with a 200 to 600 lens. We do have our bird autofocus system on the likes of the Alpha 1 now that's coming into the system. So they're not getting exactly the results they wanted from that combination. And what you do find, first of all, of course, is that the slight differences in the body technology will vary. So the likes of the Alpha 9 and the Alpha 1 have what we call stacked CMOS sensors. We refer to them as Exmor RS in Sony, but in the industry they're referred to as stacked, and that gives them amazing autofocus capability with a real high-speed data throughput from the image sensor. The likes of our Alpha 1, which has been, again, very recently launched, which now offers 8K movie recording in camera, as well as 50 megapixel stills at 30 frames per second, and a whole host of different features, also has the bird autofocus built into it. And of course, we're dedicated to really continuing to improve our autofocus system. So we're not stopping here, and we will want to, of course, continue to improve and learn on there as well.
But we have to take care that some functions are available on still side and some on movie side, right, Ben?
Yeah, sorry, good point. Sorry, Raiko. I think the person there was referring to still images, that they're using that on there. So again, at the moment, the NMLI autofocus, not on the movie side, but like I say, we're dedicated to, of course, improving our system and listening to the feedback of what's required. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, it's definitely something we'll consider for the future.
Okay, then I think we will go ahead with the beautiful clips and the nice content and interesting behind the scenes material from Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Raiko, and thanks, Ben, for all the technical, for the introduction and all the nice overview of the products we have. Yeah, my name is Dennis Schmelz, and this is my first Sony Pro session. I'm glad that I'm here and that I can tell you something about my workflow. I'm a Sony ambassador and a full-time filmmaker living in Germany, and yeah, I'm glad to tell you something about my workflow today. And yeah, I would say let's start and have a look to my presentation. Yeah, some key facts about my person. So I made an education as an audio and visual media designer a long time ago, and I filmed a lot for the German television, mostly news and documentaries. So I'm used to the big cameras, and I know what it means to focus manually without any autofocus systems. So yeah, that's also a point that I know how it was back in the days, and I'm really happy that yeah, I can use the autofocus system, but I will tell you more about this later. Yeah, after my education, I started a freelance full-time filmmaker. That was in 2013. So I'm freelance since 8 years right now, and I'm working with international clients. Have done a lot of projects in over 60 countries right now. Over the last 8 years, most of it before COVID, of course. But yeah, fun fact, I just came back from Italy yesterday. So this was my first production after 1.5 years staying at home and make local productions. So I was filming a documentary for the German television with the FX6 this time. You can see it in the background. It's still here. Actually, I'm filming a lot with small cameras like the A7S or the FX3. Just because I want to be flexible, and I'm traveling a lot, and I want to keep my gear very small. But also this, I will tell you more about this later. Yeah, and I realized projects for brands like eBay, Emirates, Jack Wolfskin, Interrail, Viking Cruises, and many more. Just a bit name dropping here, and focus on tourism, music videos, and commercials. I think the biggest part is probably tourism. When you visit my YouTube channel and also Vimeo channel, you will see a lot of travel videos, and also for tourism agencies or airlines, or yeah, a lot of stuff like that, but also commercials and music videos. Yeah, that's some facts about me, and I would say let's have a look to my show reel. You can see some things that I made the last years, and maybe Ben, hit the button and let's have a look.
What is the purpose of God for the world? We used to sing a hymn too. God is working his purpose out as the year succeeds the year. find significance in things that we wouldn't expect to find significant at all.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, that was my show reel, and it shows some of my work during the last years, a lot of commercial stuff, but also music videos and of course traveling. So I already told you I did a lot of travel things in the last years. So yeah, let's have a look to the next page. Here you see a photo of my setup. It's not a recent photo. It's probably already 1 year old. You can see still my A7 III and my A6600 on it. That was my last setup. Now I'm working more with the A7S III as a main camera, but this is the setup that I use when I'm traveling. So it's very small, and I like it because I'm flexible with it. And of course, you have this small form factor with these small alpha cameras. That's what I really like. Small form factor, but also powerful camera specs like 4K, 120p, 10-bit, 422, and of course this great autofocus. And this can be very helpful, especially when you're filming alone or in small teams, because I don't have a focus puller with me in the most of cases because I'm traveling, maybe an assistant or something like that. But yeah, there's no budget or no. Sometimes we just keep it small, and it's very helpful to have a good autofocus instead of a focus puller, especially when you shoot a lot of sports. You see all this mountain bike video footage in the show reel. Most of it was shot with autofocus. So especially when you have a mountain bike driver who's driving towards the camera, and you film with open aperture, it's very hard to keep it in focus, but with the autofocus it's quite easy, and it works. Most of the cases it works without any problems. So I will show you some more examples later, but yeah, let's have a look to the next page. Here you see some behind the scenes photos, how I'm filming mostly. So yeah, you see it on the first picture, a lot of handheld, so mostly I'm shooting handheld, or you see it on picture 2 and 3 with a gimbal. So there's no big setup, no monitor on it. It's very small. I can do movements with the camera just in my hands, and I really like it. Of course, I got also used to the big cameras, and also I'm used to work in big teams with bigger cameras. But when I'm traveling and when I have small teams, maybe just a one-man show with me, I really like to reduce my stuff. Yeah, so this is probably the most, that's the way I like it. Yeah, I got the ability to shoot a video with the new FX3 camera. So I was one of the first persons in Europe who got the chance to test it before the official launch. And I shoot a short film called Walden, and this short film was totally shot with the new FX3. And today I want to show you some behind the scenes stuff and also how I filmed this short film. Yeah, of course with Sony lenses, and we shot 3 days in the Thuringian forest. So this is a very remote area here in the middle of Germany, and we don't have any telephone connections. We have long ways to the locations, and we don't have time to also not the manpower to go there with big equipment. So also power supply was a big topic. We don't have some electricity there, so it was quite good to have a small setup with the FX3, and we could charge everything with USB, and yeah, it was quite nice. Also, the team was very small. We had just one actor and me as a DOP, a co-director, and BT as a camera guy. So we was 4 people in total with the actor. So a very small team. I would like to show you a short behind the scenes clip from this filming. You can find, I don't show the final film today, but you can find it on the Sony channels and also on my YouTube channel. You will get the links later, but for now I would like to show you the behind the scenes to get an idea how we filmed it, and yeah, let you understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, here I am back in the office. Yeah, that was quite nice, very cold and very tough filming, but it was a pleasure to test the new FX3, and also we got a lot of nice lenses. As you can see, we worked with the 85 millimeters, also a lot of prime lenses, as you can see on the pictures here. If you go to the next page, Ben. Yeah, perfect. All right. So here you see some more behind the scenes photos, and on the first picture you see the 85 1.4, and no, this one. No, sorry, it's the 135 1.8 G Master on picture 1, and we used a lot of prime lenses because we want to achieve this cinematic look with a nice bokeh, and we also had a lot of time. So we had 3 days of filming in the deep forest, so we took the time to get to focus on the shots and also to create cinematic content. And yeah, that was also the reason why we chose prime lenses instead of zoom lenses. But you can also see on picture 3, I used a gimbal, and we made some car shots out of the car, filming this Jeep driving through the snowy landscape. And in this case, I used the 24 to 70 2.8 and the 16 to 35 2.8. Just to be flexible. So I was able to zoom in or zoom out when the car comes closer, or I could react. I was very flexible. And even if you have this full frame sensor from the FX3 or also A7S or FX6, even 2.8 is such, you can, even with 2.8 you can create such a nice bokeh. And if I don't have time to change lenses, I really like to work with zoom lenses because of this flexibility. So in this video, we changed a lot between prime lenses and also zoom lenses. And you can also see on picture 2, I used the big 200 to 600 telephoto lens. And this was really nice because we also shot some wildlife things, so animals, and that was really nice to get very nice big shots of animals in the wild. And I have it here. So it's this lens, and it's very big, but I really like it because you have a range from 200 to 600, and especially for wildlife or even for landscape. If you zoom in and you have a mountain or a house kilometers away, you can just zoom in it, and it gives you a totally different look. And it's really nice. If you see just to have it in between, this is the 70-200 and this is the 200 to 600, and of course it's a bigger, but it don't drives out, so it's already, it has this is the size, and if you zoom in or zoom out, it don't come out here. So yeah, I really like it, and we used it a lot for the wildlife shots in this filming.
Dennis, can I interrupt you?
Yes, of course.
There's one question regarding your video clips. How do you make sure the autofocus catches the right thing if you are, for instance, waiting for a mountain biker to appear amongst trees? Can you quickly override it or change the subject it's chosen?
Actually, I use a lot of tracking. So you have this touch tracking function in the A7S III, and also I think in the FX3 and all the other cameras, and you just track the object with the touch function. And this is a tool what I use a lot. And also the IAF, and the drivers driving through the camera or towards the camera, I use also the IAF. And yeah, actually it works quite good. So I don't use very small or tiny zones. I use I use the white autofocus zone in my camera to be sure that it's on the face or on my tracking area. I hope that was understandable.
That's good. It's good.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, let's go to the next page. On the Walden movie, I told you a lot of lenses we used. So we used from 16 to 35, and this big telephoto lens, a lot of lenses. But I also showed a video with only one lens, and this was also a pre-production for the new 35 1.4 lens from Sony. And also here I got the ability to shoot a short film. But in this case, I only had one lens. So that was a challenge because I didn't have the chance to zoom in or zoom out. I had only this 35mm lens. And I really like this challenge because, yeah, I never did it before. And it's quite nice I was limited just to one lens and created this short film. And I think 35 is a very nice focal length because it's not too wide and not too long. And it's very cinematic. So in this short film, I used only this lens, and I filmed probably 80% of the shots were shot with the autofocus system. So I used the touch focus, I used the tracking, and I used the IIF and everything shoot with one lens. So yeah, maybe have a look to it, then you can get a better idea of it. Yeah, that was a great challenge, working only with one lens. And yeah, I really enjoyed this process. We have everything got very, so we don't waste time on changing lenses and thinking about, okay, what lens should I use now? Maybe this one, or maybe prime or zoom lens. So we just had one lens, and I really enjoyed it because you could more focus on the creative process. And of course, it don't fit in every production. You need a lot of options of lenses, but in this case, it was quite nice to focus only on one lens. So yeah, so you can do both. Have a big bag with a lot of lenses or just one lens. Both works, but I prefer to have more options, but also sometimes it's nice to limit it. Me. Okay, so yeah, have a look to the next page. In this video, I produced a short tutorial video to show you the benefits of the autofocus system. And for this video, I shot with a model. I worked with open aperture, had some fast movements to challenge the autofocus as much as possible. And everything was filmed in German because it's a tutorial for my YouTube channel, but I added some subtitles that you can understand what I'm telling. And yeah, maybe Ben, you can hit the play button and we can have a look to it.
Signals, you say you're excited to see me.
Ja, wir haben jetzt gerade nochmal den absoluten Härtetest gemacht mit 1,8er Blende, offenblendig und dann noch eine Zubewegung. Das heißt, Franzi ist auf die Kamera zugelaufen und die Kamera auf sie. Das heißt, wir haben eine Bewegung, die für den Fokus sehr, sehr schwierig ist. Die Kamera bewegt sich und das Objekt, beides aufeinander zu. Und ja, wir haben es gesehen, also die Augen waren permanent scharf. Und das zeigt halt auch wieder die Stärke von dem Augen-AF. Und ich glaube, sowas selber zu ziehen, wäre wirklich eine Herausforderung. Also da müsste man das ein paar Mal durchspielen. Man müsste sich Schärfe-Marker auf den Boden setzen und halt eben auch Marker am Objektiv, wann, wo die Schärfe wo zu sein hat. Mit dem Augen-AF geht das jetzt kinderleicht und ich kann das in wenigen Takes ja, in den Kasten bringen. Und jetzt würde ich sehr gerne nochmal mit einem Tele, das heißt mit einer sehr langen Brennweite das Ganze filmen und einfach gucken, was passiert denn eigentlich im Bereich von 200 mm. Jetzt noch Lowlight, also wir kommen jetzt gerade in die blaue Stunde, das wird auf jeden Fall sehr spannend.
Yeah, and this was a short tutorial video how I'm working with the autofocus system, and as you could see, it's very impressive. Also with open apertures and objects moving towards the camera, or the camera and object is moving together. So I really like it, especially the eye autofocus when you're shooting with models or yeah, short films with people in front of the camera. It's very helpful, and yeah, so I really like it. And this was a short part of a tutorial that I shot about the autofocus. So yeah, the time is running, so I would go to my last page. I already told you a lot of autofocus and how I use it in my productions, but in some cases it also makes sense to switch between the manual focus and the autofocus. As I already told, I started with manual focus years ago, and I didn't use any autofocus systems. But for now, it's so good, and I also can use it in my productions. But in some cases, I also need the manual focus, of course. I need it because sometimes I need the full control. But I really like to combine manual and autofocus in one shot. And in this example, it was a music filming with a dance performance for the German electro artist Modus Electro. And in this case, we worked a lot with haze. And haze could be a big issue for the autofocus. And that's why I switched to the manual focus when the haze comes into the picture, and went back to the autofocus when the dancer was visible again. So the camera was mounted on a gimbal, and me and the dancer moved through the location. So the eye autofocus was a very big help again. And as you can see on picture one, I focused the model in the middle of the room, so the dancer. Then the haze come in. I switched to manual focus, and then when on picture 4, when the dancer was moving again, and I was also moving around with my gimbal, I go back to autofocus, and everything was in the settings. I put everything off slow, that it don't begin to pump. I don't want to that the autofocus is looking for something. So everything was set off to small to very slow to get the best results. All right, so it's already 2 o'clock, so I think we came to the end of my presentation. And yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'm very curious to hear your questions. And yeah, back to Ben and Heiko.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Really nice, impressive content. This is also the feedback from the audience. They like it. I want to go back to the chats. At first, I have to say thank you for many questions. There are some questions asking about future plans and future products. We have to say it's a very simple answer. We don't speak about the future plans, but we will take it as feedback with us. This is what we have to say. But there are also some interesting questions. Oh, I have one question for Ben about the G-Master lenses. Why are G-Master lenses more expensive? Are they really worth it?
Of course they're worth it. Of course I'm going to say that as a representative of Sony, but they truly are. So I saw that question come up in the chat. We also had somebody who was questioning that they're looking at an Alpha 1 with either the 200 to 600, which is a great lens. That was the lens which Dennis mentioned, that you can see in the background of his shot there that he used on the shoot. I've actually got one with me here as well. It's a real fun lens. But somebody else in the chat was looking at the Alpha 1 and the 200, 600 or the 600mm G-Master. And of course, there is a price difference. But the reason why the G-Master, like I say, are the top of our range effectively is because of the technology that goes into them. So as a first point, the G-Master are all about getting the ultimate resolution with the ultimate bokeh, with the ultimate kind of background blur. And what I'm talking about there is that traditionally as manufacturers, we put in spherical lenses into our aspherical lenses into our lens constructions to really improve the resolution, improve the sharpness. But with that, there's a detrimental effect to the bokeh in the background, like say the defocus areas. So typically the more spherical lenses and so on you put in there to help improve the resolution, it can have a real detrimental effect on the bokeh. You can get onion rings, you can get patterns coming in within there, you can get harsh bokeh. And it always seemed to be a choice between, do we want quite a beautiful bokeh, which again, a lot of people really appreciate, or do we want to have, the ultimate high resolution? Well, with the G-Master lenses, we put technologies in there to really make sure we get an absolutely outstanding balance of both. Now, what you find in a lot of our G-Master lenses are what we call XA lens elements. Those are extreme aspherical. So these are aspherical lens elements, but they're made to such a precision. So this is down to 0.01 of a micron in terms of the measurement of the smoothness of the surface of those elements. What that enables us to do is it enables us to deliver that really high resolution along with beautiful bokeh, trying to avoid onion ring bokeh with texture in, harsh edges, and so on. And so the G-Master lenses, like I say, are really offering that amazing balance of that resolution with the beautiful bokeh put in there. That's not to say you don't get great bokeh out of our other lenses, of course, but the G-Master really are designed up to the top-notch level to go that extra mile. And as such, like I say, the performance we see coming out, I mean, Dennis will have used a few with him there. You saw he had the 135 1.8 on his shoot. That's one of my favorites out there. But we also have a broad range of G-Masters going from 14mm, as we mentioned before. I mentioned the likes of the 24, the 35, the 50 1.2. We've got the 85 1.4 as well in terms of the primes, as well as the zooms on there as well. So yes, we do offer a wide variety of lenses across, like I say, a multitude of price points. So we're hopefully being able to cater for everybody within there. But when you look at our lens lineup, like I say, if you want to know more about specific lenses, you'll also see that we've got our website, Sony Alpha Universe Europe, the European sites, where you get professionals using those lenses as well as the different bodies on there. So you'll see the experience of professional photographers and filmmakers out using those lenses and their experiences with the lenses, which you can find on our Sony Alpha Universe Europe page, as well as even looking at our Alpha Academy, which is within that site as well, which give you some tutorials, not just for still image side, but also on filmmaking across our different products as well there. So a very helpful source of information if you want to look further onto those things as well.
Expensive? Why expensive? And I think it depends from the point of view. I have a nice story for you. Some years ago on the IBC, we have shown the lenses, and at first a photographer came to the booth and said, "Oh, good price." And 10 minutes later, a cinematographer came to the booth and said, "Oh, so affordable." That depends on the point of view and how you compare the G Master with some typical DSLR lenses or with cinema lenses. This is that's the point at the end. And there's a lot of performance inside what Ben has explained to you. And yeah, we have talked not so much about the image quality, but I think you have seen this on the pictures from Dennis and on the examples from Ben. And I've seen there were a lot of questions also for Dennis. I think Dennis will try to answer them afterwards. Or do you have picked up one specific question at the moment, Dennis?
I didn't go through the questions, sorry.
Well, it's okay, don't worry, guys. I've seen a question here, which is a question in general, but it's also interesting to know Dennis's implementation, particularly with what he just told us about autofocus and manual focus. So someone was asking us about switching between autofocus and manual focus. Is it using a switch or a button? Now, on our cameras, we have lots, or on our lenses, should I say, we have lots of lenses with switches on there, so you can switch between them. But you can also customize buttons on the camera. So, Dennis, how did you do that in your shooting? Do you customize a button to change between, to hold it down, or to toggle, so you can press it once and it changes, press it again, it comes back? Do you have anything set up like that on your shooting?
Actually, I used this on the lens, the AF/MF thing on the lens, but also in the FN menu. I put everything in my FN menu. There's not so much pressure when you put it on the lens. It could be that you shake a lot with your camera, but when you put it in your menu, you just go on FN and then switching here with the cursor, and then you can go from MF to AF. And this is probably the best way to switch between when the camera is recording. Otherwise, I use just the AF/MF thing on the lens.
Yeah, so you can see there's quite a few different ways to do it. So options with the switches on the lens, custom button on the lens potentially, or on the body. I know one filmmaker who specializes in weddings, who loves doing macro shots of the ring, where he just sets it completely out of focus on a tripod, and he has a custom button on the camera just set to change between autofocus and manual focus. And as soon as he presses the button to change back to autofocus, he has his focus transition speed set really slow, and it's just a beautiful kind of focus pull from it being set completely out of focus. He just literally presses the button on the camera, on the tripod, and it brings the wedding ring into focus. And that's an example of how you can work in different ways with our cameras and lenses, depending on what your workflow is and how you like to work.
And you have seen the mobile work from Dennis. This means a lot of shots were done with the gimbal. I haven't seen any tripod. But this is also the reason why you have to use autofocus, small and compact lenses. Of course, we have also some bigger ones, but yeah, this is the point at the end. Okay.
Yeah, especially on the gimbal, because you can also make the manual focus with the gimbal, because you have some tools to get manual focus on the gimbal directly, but you're focused on walking, you're focused on the picture, and then also focus on the focus. Probably it's too much for me, so I like the autofocus, and I can focus on the picture and not on the focus. Yeah.
And Raiko, we had one other question, which is, like I say, quite good timing. Somebody was asking about color matching different FX series in the chat as well, which sounds almost as if it's been set up, but it actually hasn't. This was a question which came through our chat.
Yes, this will be the topic for the next session with Jin, my colleague Jin, and yeah, Oli Morse. They will have the next Sony Pro session about color matching between FX3, FX6, and the FX9, and this will be happen on May the 27th. And yeah, of course, you all are invited. Please register for this session again, and we have much more sessions, as you have already seen maybe on the page. And this is, I think, our keyword. Or do you have some things to add? Otherwise, I will finish the session.
From my side, I just want to say a big thank you to Dennis for joining us and for showing us his amazing work. It's really good to see this technology being put into practice, because it's one thing me and Raiko talking about how things work and our experience of hearing things, but it's a very different thing seeing the end product of somebody as talented as Dennis, who's out there using the products. And like I say, you'll also get some links onto his socials coming up, so please do give him a follow, and you'll see even more amazing work from him on there. I'd also like to apologize to anybody who we haven't got around to answering your question, because we've had lots and lots coming in within the time. We're also overrun a little bit, but thank you very much for your interaction as well.
Hi, from the background, this is Jin speaking for the session next week. Just to give you some insights in beforehand, next week or the next session on the 27th will be about the color matching between FX3, FX6, FX9, and we will do it very pragmatic, in a pragmatic way. So we will be in a studio, we will have a test chart, and then we are matching the three cameras to each other in two ways. One time in custom mode and S-Cinetone, and the other way with S-Log3, and then we show you how it works. So yeah, if you could join, that would be great. Thanks a lot from my side.
I will join, Jim.
Yeah, you.
I promise. Thank you for the information. Nice. Yes, this will be one of my last sentences in this pro session. If you are a user of one of the FX models or other models with our fast hybrid autofocus system, and you have no or less Sony lenses, please loan one, test it, and create your own opinion and get your own experience. We have shown you a lot of things and talked a lot, but the best thing is if you make your own tests. Go to your rent shop or rental service or video store, and this is what I highly recommend, to get your own experience. Then we have to say thank you for joining the session. Thank you for all the feedback, for all the comments and questions. After, if we're closing this session, you will get a survey with a lot of information, and additionally, you will get an email with all the links and also with the additional information about lenses. And maybe Ben can switch to the social media. You can see Sony, you can get access to all the social media platforms, and also from Dennis. You can contact them about all the social media areas. And as Ben has recommended, please take a look to the final resolution, to the final movies from Dennis, to get a little bit better quality than in our session here. And thank you for joining. Have a nice day, and we will see you in the next pro session.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.